Hello people, so welcome to Final Cut Pro. This is the editing software that I use for all of my video work, be it for clients or be it for personal work. Now today this video is a little bit different because it is made in affiliation with Dehancer Pro. Now Dehancer Pro is a plugin that allows you to emulate the look of film and also do color correction and a whole load of other stuff which I'm going to go into shortly. You can get a 10% discount on all of their plugins except for the app, which I will also be showing you later. If you use the code in the description, which is NJAGeorge at checkout. Now I do get a little bit of a kickback from that, but that doesn't sway my opinions of this plugin. I want to show you how I can get from this footage here, this raw footage shot on a Canon C70 in C-Log 2 to this nice saturated lovely footage here. Now it's all very simple, it's all using Dehancer Pro. So far I've been using it for a couple of days now and I'm really liking how it turns out and how simple it is to use, and I'm also loving the fact that there are so many options within Dehancer Pro. It's not very often that you get a plugin that has so many different options within it. Usually there will be like one or two and you'd have to like bulk up a load of different plugins to make it look the way you want it to. But Dehancer Pro is seemingly getting rid of those other plugins. You may see here that I've got an adjustment layer. I can't remember where I got the adjustment layer downloaded from, but if I do remember, I'll put a link in the description for that as well. So what did I do to get my footage looking from this to this? Dead simple. I went, added the adjustment layer, added the Dehancer Pro plugin, so that's found in the effects tab under film emulation. And then I went through all the settings and I coloured it up how I would usually colour my footage. Obviously this time round with a bit more involvement because they've got film emulation, which means you can make your footage look like film from an old camera. My first step with any colour grading in general is to make sure that my colour space is correct. So in here you have loads of different options. So in the input tab you can be shooting in Rec 709, Rec 2020, Apple Gamut, that's for the newer iPhones. So if you're shooting in RAW you can correct your footage using this. Cine on film log and choose camera. Now I chose my camera because that will allow for a more accurate color transformation. So I was shooting on the Canon C70 with C-Log 2 in Cinema Gamut. I've done some basic color corrections, so exposure, temperature, everything like that. I've done that already. But the stuff I really want to show you is this stuff here, the film section. So there are tons of different settings in here, and there are also tons of different film emulations to choose from. I chose Kodak Portrait 800, that's my preferred film when I'm using a film camera, so I figured why not try it on this footage. So far, I think it looks really good. It does dumb it down slightly, but I quite like how that footage looks and I like how Portrait 800 renders colour. So you can push and pull the EV, that is completely up to you, that's up to your personal taste. In the next tab we've got the film developer. There you can add contrast, you can basically go and boost your colours, you can make everything look a bit more punchy, a bit more colourful. Film compression, dead simple. Film compression basically it tries to level out your highlights and your shadows and makes it look a bit dull. So what you can do in here is you can basically increase or decrease how white the whites are and how black the blacks are. This is really helpful. This is also similar to the expand tab within the Dehancer Pro plugin, because they have very similar settings in the fact that you can change your white and black points and your color mode. So then we've got print. I tend to leave this on linear, but there are different options for you. So essentially I've gone through, I've changed the color density. Color density basically means it makes your colors look a lot punchier. So if we were to reduce the color density, as you can see, it doesn't look as good, takes a bit of the shine out of it, doesn't look as, powerful. So it's not like saturation. Saturation is all of the color basically, so all of your reds, your greens, yellows, blues, pinks, you name it, those colors it will reduce that to 0, so there's no colour there, and change it to black and white. That's not what colour density is doing. Colour density is making it more punchy and more visible within the image. On to colour head. So colour head is similar to if you were creating a print, or if you were using the colour wheels effects panel. So what this is doing is it allows you to change the tone and the tint of your shadows, your highlights and your midtones, and it can also be used to preserve your exposure and everything like that. I don't use the colour head because it's not really my style, but if I was to, I'd enable it here, and I've put a little bit of blue in the shadows and a little bit of orange, or a bit of warmth into the midtones. That gives it that sort of cinematic, like orange and teal look, but that's not really what I want to do, so I'm going to turn that off. Then we've got film grain. Now film grain is one of those fun subjects where it really depends on what you want and what your client wants. Obviously if you're working for yourself, it doesn't really matter, you can do whatever you want to do, but let's just say we want to add some grain to the footage. What that does is it makes your footage look grainy. Who thought it? Essentially you can come in here, you can change the size, you can change the amount, you can, you know, change the film resolution, which for this it will change the resolution of the backdrop, so the footage below, it will basically degrade that footage and make it look more blurry, not as intact as it should look. You can increase the shadows, the shadow grain, you can increase the mid grain. You can increase pretty much everything or decrease everything how you would like. I personally, I wouldn't be using this grain section unless I was producing something like a a feature, a short film that basically requires that sort of 90s look. But I can see this being really, really useful for a lot of different workflows and a lot of different styles of film. Now this is the one everyone screams about, which is halation. So halation is the red that you see in the highlights. So you can't really see it on this because it's not really kicking in, but what we'll do is we'll increase the source limiter, and we're going to increase local diffusion, and basically we're going to boost this up quite a bit. What this is doing is, you can't really see it up here, but there's that sort of red glow you get around the edge of your highlights. That's what halation does. So next we've got bloom. I'm sort of messing around with this one. I don't use bloom a lot because I use mist filters if I want that look, but if you don't have access to a mist filter, this is what this is for. It allows you to essentially create bloom and that sort of nice glow effect to your image without basically ruining it. You can amplify it all the way up and make it look really, really glowy, but that's not really how I like to make my shots look. Typically I'd have bloom up here, typically I've had bloom down here, but I'd leave all of this stuff here. That is personal preference, so yeah, just gives you the option to actually use this. Film damage, there is a whole load of stuff you can do here. So film damage will let you do everything you could possibly think of. You can add dust, you can add hairs, you can add all of this stuff, and you can't really see it in this shot here, but what that's doing is adding scratches and dots and little bits of dust that you would typically find on older film cameras. Again, not my personal use, but I can see this being really helpful for older style films, or potentially, you know, that sort of archived found footage type shot. Now then, I'm going to disable that real quick. You've also got film breadth, gate weave, overscan, vignette, and monitor and output. Not sure what gate weave is, but by the looks of it, it looks like it changes the size of your footage. Let's have a look here. Yeah, okay, cool. So it changes the size of your footage, and it also changes how the footage runs. I wouldn't typically use this, but you know, it's up to you. It's your personal preference. If this is something that you want to be able to do, they have this option. That's what's really cool about it. It's the fact that you've got all of these options that are just, you know, available to you at the click of a button. Now this one, overscan, this is exactly what it says on the tin. You've got that sort of framed look. Again, it would be more for the archived footage, that sort of style of use. That's what I would use it for. There's loads of different options in here. You've got widescreen, you've got ultra 16mm, you've got ultra 65mm. There's all of these different options that you can use, and basically it allows you to do, that's a bit of a lag there, apologies, but basically this allows you to add an overscan to your images. It's up to you how you use that, but again, not my personal preference. I think it could be useful for a lot of different people though, and different types of projects. Now vignette is pretty self-explanatory. You've got basically your center area that's brighter and your corners would be darkened down slightly. You can change the aspect ratio of how that looks, so if you want to really see how that works, you've got basically that change like that. So it changes and makes the middle darker, or middle lighter, sorry, and the edges darker. Again, not really my style of shooting. I wouldn't typically use vignette on a shot like this, but I think it could be quite cool, again, for all sorts of other stuff. Now this is cool. This is something I really like having the option to do, which is this, turn on false color. So when you're exposing an image, you typically want it to be in this grey, this pink to green area, the perfectly exposed areas. If you've got it on 0, that means it's too dark. If you've got it in red, it's too bright. This is really useful for finding out if your footage is exposed correctly. Now typically you would do this in camera, but just in case you want to double check, that's how you would check. You'd look at this scale. Hopefully it would be between the pink and the green, which in this case it is. And then all is good. Essentially, you've got really nicely done footage. Now your output, this is how much this whole plugin affects your footage. Leave this on 100 if you want it to be at 100, or you can take it all the way down to 0 if you want to go back to that log footage. That really is up to you though. You can always turn off the layer or turn off the plugin if you don't want that look and you want to see what it's come from. Now the last little couple of options on here, you've got your options. So in here, that's where you go and you can check for profiles, you can check your license, you can disable everything, but your license info, that's what you need to make this plugin work. You can also export LUTs. So LUTs are really useful. They let you grade your footage how you want it to look, and then you can essentially export your LUT like so. Automatically saves as Dehancer LUT. So I'm going to change this to GHP-Portra 800. So that's what the LUT's going to be saved as. I'm going to save that to my desktop, and what that will allow me to do is import a LUT into Final Cut Pro or into, you know, my monitor or camera, and it will let me see this exact colouring for my footage. Obviously it won't work for every single bit of footage, but it will give you the idea of what your colours are going to look like at the end of the day. So that's the Dehancer Pro plugin. It's really simple. It's really easy to use. You know, if you can't find it in your effects panel, just go down here, film emulation, and it will be there. I initially was looking for Dehancer or something similar like that in the naming, but it is under film emulation. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, I'm about to show you what the phone app looks like. So this is the Dehancer Pro phone app. It's available via the App Store, and it is a free download. However, you do have to have a license for it, which is paid on a subscription. Dehancer were kind enough to give me this for free, just so I can check it out and show you a bit more about it. The app's really well designed. It's a combination of tabs, sliders and menus. You can create your own presets, you can choose your own film styles, and you can edit pretty much every aspect of your photo and video content. If you've liked my Instagram stories or if you like my TikToks recently, then you'll know that I've been using this software to edit all of my stuff. You can export it straight to your camera roll with no problem. It's quite fast, and to be honest, the app loads really quickly. Unfortunately, the app doesn't have a discount code just yet, but if that does become available, I'll be sure to let you know in the future. So yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and remember, if you are going to download this and you are going to use it on Final Cut or anything on your Mac, use NJA George at checkout for 10% off, and if you do use that, I do get a little bit of kickback, so thank you in advance.